Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. I'm Toby and we have got the second group of PGC coming your way in just a short moment. Now, if you haven't watched group 1, you can go do that if you want to. And if you don't know how the format works, you can jump over to PUBGesports.com and find all the information over there. But it's pretty simple. These teams will be playing 6 games. We're going to go through all of them. And after that, the top 8 teams will go through to the semifinals, and the bottom 8 teams will go into what's called the elimination stage, where they will play against the bottom 8 teams from yesterday's games. Pretty straightforward format, but you can find all the information on the PUBG Esports homepage, so I don't need to go too much in depth with that. Now, one thing I do want to do though before we start with drawing on the map and all that is the same thing that we did yesterday. Yesterday what we did was that we took a look at the team's drop spots prior to playing, because these guys played last night, depending on where you are in the world. Of course, for me it was last night, and of course, they have played scrims, they've had practices against each other, but we want to take a look at, before we start, what the maps looked like before they played. So these are the drop spots. These are the drop spots for all the teams coming into PGC. The reason that I have 2 AHQ logos is because they sometimes go up here. Like I can't really figure out which they prioritize, so I put it up like this. So coming into PGC, and again, I know that things were different. Do I have Facebook open? Wait, what? I don't know. Maybe I got a Facebook message. I don't know. In any case, no, I lost track of what I was gonna say. Oh no, there you go. These are the spots that the teams had coming into PGC. So to take a quick look at it, we can see that a lot of teams were landing in Pochinki. We got Genesis, we got Entis Force, we got Detonator, and we got Team Liquid. Up north, we have 4am, looting school and apartments, Atletico and QM Gaming landing in Rozhok, and then down on the eastern side, Afrika Freaks and Rumblers were landing in Mills Power. So those were our somewhat contesting, so no big farm team contesting, no big east side contesting, no one down around Ferry Pier. These are coming into the games. These were the splits for the teams. And now let me just double check if I have Facebook open, because that would be kind of embarrassing. I don't have Facebook open. Why do people say Facebook? I got debated by my chat. Never read chat. They bait me. Do I have Facebook open? No, I don't. Okay, in any case, let's go straight into it. So game number 1, it's going to be 3 Erangels, then 1 Sanhok, and then 2 games on Miramar to finish off the day. Let's start. Decent plane. You can go wherever you want, all the way through, and immediately we see Detonator out. So that's one of the teams that could have gone Pochinki, or that would have gone Pochinki in their regions, that are then not going Pochinki. What we do see, though, is 2 teams that do go Pochinki. Is Genesis and Entis Force. We'll leave them at that, because I can already spoil it to you now if you didn't watch the games. They never really fight. I mean, they will loot. Genesis will loot the southern side, Entis Force will loot the northern side, and then they'll go each their way. They never really confront each other too much, so it's not too big of an issue. It does cause a little bit of chaos, I guess you can say, in terms of rotations out, but it's really not too bad. And also, those of you guys wondering why I have a band-aid on my ear, I had a beauty mark removed the other day, and the band-aid has to sit on for a week, so I'm not trying to become a hip-hop guy. Wasn't it Nelly who had the one under here to be really cool? I don't know. In any case, let's see. AHQ all going up here, so they didn't want to go Milta, and then again, it wasn't really a Milta plane. But they go up here to what we marked previously. Divine go up to Georgipol, so no military for them. They're gonna go Georgipol. Who we do see military though is Afrika Freaks, Fatal, and TSM. Now AFF, Afrika Freaks, they'll go over on the northern side over towards the east, and TSM will stay down on the west side. They normally have FaZe looting this area and PEL, but obviously FaZe, they're not here, so that's not exactly an issue. And another thing is Liquid. A lot of teams were I guess you could say a lot of teams were hoping to see Liquid and Genesis square it out inside of Pochinki, but I guess Liquid were the ones to back off when it came to it. Gemty is gonna go loot Watertown, Samty is looting Ruins, and then they have James and Ibiza looting the double compounds on in between school and Pochinki. So it's applying a little more pressure to 4 a.m. alongside teams kind of on top of each other up here. You can see QM actually a pretty interesting split they've got. You got GSO on the northern side. You got Ligi on some call it Garden compound, the one down here. And then you have Wu Feng and Yu up on the compounds on the east. Luke is only taking a car. He's gonna go over towards his teammates. And then Wayless, for those of you guys who don't know, Wayless is God V. So if you're confused and say, "Oh my God, I remember God V. Why isn't he there?" Rah! He is. He has just changed his name, so he is God V. So Liquid splitting different spots. QM are leaving, it seems, because they were the ones to contest Atletico and Razok, but seems like Atletico got that for free. And then no other really big changes given the plane and everything. There's not really any other big changes. Rumblers are gonna go north. They could, I mean, technically they could have run down to Milta Power, but I mean with this plane, it's not exactly the most Milta Power friendly plane in the universe. So it's not a big deal. They're gonna loot the northern side, and what we do see now is the first circle. And now, of course, this circle gives us, I would say, one of two things to focus on. A, the river. The river is quite a big payment. I will have quite a big impact here because we don't know whether it's going to go north or south, and we don't know. I mean, teams would want to be close to the water, but it is essentially a split. I mean, right through the middle, so you can't really at this point guess where it's going to go. And then the question is, do you prioritize sitting north and then maybe have to rotate south? Or would you rather be down south and then maybe have to rotate north? Of course, that's something that that the teams will have to decide for themselves. Now, let's see. The circle is going to close in at some point soon. The thing is the center point. I mean, if you look at the center of this circle, because in Group 1, teams like Armory Gaming, Entus Ace, and Rascal Jester to a certain extent too, all these teams would rotate, if not immediately, then really early. So I'm looking to see if any of these teams are also rotating early. We do see Levis and Jet out somewhat early on. Lazarus are going to go up and take some control. 4 a.m. send 2 people up. Wayless and Forever are going to be the first 2 to rotate up. QM is moving down. Yes, that's a little lucky, I guess you can say. Wayless hears them fighting, so he's gonna see what's happening there. Now the rest of 4 a.m. comes up, and they're just gonna go towards the Alamo or Granny House, whatever you want to call it. Liquid rotating out. Keep in mind they're not rotating out of Pochinki anymore, so a little bit of difference. But I guess with these circles, you can say that with this circle, it actually kind of helps them not to be in Pochinki because it puts them one step closer to the center of the circle. So now looting here, or here I guess you can say, they have a lot more accessibility to the river. They have a lot more accessibility to deciding what side they want to be on, whereas if they were in Pochinki, maybe they would be more dependent on what other teams do. So like they could only cross here if no one else had taken this already. They can only go down here if no one from Rozak had pushed over to take it. Those sort of things. Now they can actually be the first ones to decide which they want to play. So they do a split on both sides. As one of the only teams, actually. Most teams are committed full on. A lot of teams up on the northern side. And then we see down south, we have Genesis rotating. And you can see this rotation from them. A wide rotation around. Don't want to get confronted on that rotation because they don't know. I mean, Ensis could essentially, while they were driving out, could potentially have gone up to church. They could have sent people out here. So wide rotation from Genesis all the way around to try and get into the circle. Smart play. It's the first game. Rather rotate safe and be sure. A Freak of Freaks, they barely, did they just get there? Yeah, so okay, no, they've been there for a while. But they're looting in Milta Power. We saw them drive all the way over. From here, they came over this way, over towards Milta Power. And then we have TSM down south as well. Maybe didn't get the loot that they wanted. You can see they're quite slow on the rotation. But then again, I mean, you're on military on a somewhat northern circle, so no reason to stress it. I mean, you're going to have space to move around on the southern side anyway. But we can see, if we pause right before the new circle pops, and that's where it gets kind of interesting. If we pause it, let's just pause it right here, because now we don't see anyone else shift sides. So we have a half team, I guess you can say. Look at the split from Liquid as well. Pretty, I wouldn't say greedy necessarily, but this is a thin split. If James gets knocked, there's no way Yemti can come help him. If Yemti gets knocked, there's very little James can do, and there's for sure nothing that EB or Samti can do, because they would have to cross the water. So they are hoping, I guess you can say, that no one is contesting. And that's the thing that teams like to do in the early part of a new group of teams. That was a strange sentence, but hear me out. Whenever you have a new group of teams playing against each other, whenever a new group of teams go up against each other, there's always going to be a... I mean, it's different now when it's a global event, but there's always going to be a day or a week, even in the leagues, where teams have to figure out how they want to play. And while they do that, some teams will go on the aggressive. We saw Ensis Ace do it. We saw other teams try and take those center positions early because they never expect people to dare. Like, teams don't want to go too aggressive. We saw with Ensis Ace, or with Genesis, the way that they rotated out, they could just have gone around this way, but they go all the way around instead because they want to make sure they don't get confronted. In the early games, in the first couple of games, teams will play extra carefully. For the most part. And then there are some teams that do the opposite, that because they know the other teams are going to play carefully, then they will try and take more ground. And that's exactly what Liquid are doing here. But what I wanted to say with this was we have one, I guess you could say a half. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then with these two together, it's technically 5. So we have 20 players south, which means that we have 39 players. So 2/3 of the players alive, pretty much exactly, on the northern side of the river. 2/3 of the players on the northern side. 39 players up here, 20 players down here. And with the circle shifting, now all these players need to get the hell down south. Because, I mean, yes, technically it could shift back up north again, but what are the odds? I don't think that's what you're going to bank on. And had this been anywhere else, had it been on Miramar, had it been anywhere else on the map pretty much, this would not be as bad as it is here. The only thing now is that in order to rotate south, unless, okay, let's zoom it out. Unless if you go here, everything, let's draw a line. All right. Everything west of the red line on the map, this is where you can rotate freely. This entire side. This entire side, on this entire side of this is a really annoying to see, but you know what I mean? On the left side of the red line, everything in terms of rotations north to south is over a bridge. And we just talked about how teams want to play safe. They want to play smart. They don't want to do anything risky. If there's one thing that's risky in PUBG, that is crossing bridges. Because, you know, there's always the chance that a team could be sitting around trying to hold you off. It's not something we see too often in PUBG anymore. But it does happen. I mean, it does happen. We'll see it. And there's a military game coming up. No, I don't mean to spoil everything, but I assume that you've seen some of the things already, and you will see some bridge camping. But everything west of that point is bridges. So just keep that in mind. That's another factor that players have to take into account. So do they want to spend more time rotating around this side to avoid having to cross a bridge, or are they daring enough, or like do they have enough info that they feel like they can cross one of the bridges? We'll see what the teams decide to do. 3 teams out east don't want to cross. Atletico over, 4am over, Divine cross over, AHQ over here, and Detonator. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 with Genesis. And they actually, I mean, look at the way it's split up. They split on the bridges pretty damn well. James gets knocked, he gets back up on his feet. But look at the split that Liquid are in now. when do we ever, and this is a start of something that ends up being Liquid's downfall. It's not this specific picture, it's just in general. When do we ever see Liquid play this far apart from each other? It's one of those things where teams that are forced into a different playstyle than what they have success doing can really mess things up for them. And this is one of the things. You would never, in any other, like in any PEL game, in anything else, you would never see Liquid be spread this far apart. You would never see it. You would never see it. And we are only 10 minutes into the very first game. So already now, because they were forced to go somewhere else, because James got knocked the way that he did up on the northern side, this team is already playing a different style, I guess you can say, or being pushed into playing differently than what they normally would. It's it's nothing massive at this point, but just keep it in mind. 4 a.m. we saw them. They tried to come back and take, like they looted school, so they're like, yeah, we can get school again, easy peasy. But the QM already snuck themselves in and took that, so they're gonna get a few kills off of that. Samty and EB needs to just chill where they are. James and Gemty, they'll get going. Lazarus, Rumblers, and Sun Sister all coming in from the east. We saw them before. They were the teams that decided to rotate around. They're going to be coming in from the south. Because the thing is, if you go north here, it's all compounds. You cannot play anything in the open. And with a circle where, I mean, they know, everyone knows that there are so many more teams on the northern side that has to go south. They need to respect and need to assume that a lot of this is taken. I'm actually surprised that none of these three teams go to Volcano to scout further in, because they all decide to rotate underneath. Shoot to kill SST. Shoot to kill. This would be shoot to kill. Lazarus, Sun Sister, and Rumblers all go down south. Lazarus full speed sent it. I mean, look at this rotation. There are only 2 players alive. Fair enough. But they just zigzag their way into this compound. Keep that in mind. They're here in circle 2. Sitting there in circle 2. TSM in the meanwhile, they know this as well. This is a perfect positioning for them. Look at this. Look at this. Early game control. Early game map control is essential. We saw G2 do a similar thing on the eastern circle we had in on day 1. But look at this. TSM is coming in late on the south side. What they could do now is just chill. Just go here and chill. But what they do instead, like first they go together, make sure that it's clear. And then once they realize that everything is clear, look what happens. They start splitting out. Iroh goes back down south because they know to expect that these teams will be coming in around the back, because they know how many teams came from the top, and so many teams will try and do these kind of wraps around from the other side, and they know they need to be ready for it. So Iroh goes down to hold, Rory comes in to help, Gustav and Michael are still up on Potato to try and make sure that no one's pushing from that direction. And then Rory, once he realizes that there's no pressure from Pachinki or from anywhere else close, he goes down here to help maintain control. So a lot of control, like they're trying to full-on hold any of these potential pushes around the side. Very, very smart positioning. Very smart positioning from TSM here. It's something you don't see a lot of teams do, but they play it really, really well from the very start of it. New circle pops. It's gonna go further south, and here we see. Actually, I was very, very, very positively surprised to see this rotation from V-Click, former Bitlove team, former team. But they decide to push into the middle, and I like this play. The only issue is when you crash Sender, which is essentially what they do. When you crash Sender in circle 3, you need to make the plays together. If you're going to crash a compound, which is fair enough, you can do that in circle 3, you need to go together. Herald is not even with them. Herald is miles away. Silson has a bike so he can catch up to them, but he's not close. So as soon as they get knocked, like if this is a whole different situation. Ragnar gets knocked. Repo ends up getting knocked as well. But if Ragnar gets knocked and Silson is there and Herald is here, that could have been a whole different fight. They could have pushed in, they could have killed them, they could have managed to maybe get the reses up, and that could have like worked out for them. But instead, they go 2 guys together, Silson drives away, and Herald is not even there to help. So I mean, the idea is good. The idea is very good for W-Click, but they just don't play it together, which ends up costing them 2 players, and all of a sudden now, Silson and Herald, they don't really have anywhere to go, so they're just chilling. This could have been, like, this could easily, not easily, but this could very likely have been W-Click's position to play from, had they pushed it together. But Herald was nowhere near them. He was rotating much later, in a US too, so he's going to be very slow. If anything, here, Silson takes the, because you can see he gets the vehicle there, right? He comes into the vehicle there. Like you can see here with the vehicle. So if both the bike and the US is parked here, you want to give the bike to the last guy, because then he can catch up to the other guys, right? But Herald is the last. He gets the US as well, so he's going to be like accelerating up the hill, getting over, and he's just not, like, he's not there fast enough at all. So nothing that you can really do in that situation if you're him there. Detonator come underneath, Rumblers come underneath. This is exactly what TSM were positioning to prevent. And once Rory hears all the vehicles, he gets on his car, gets away. Iroh hears them too. He's going to drive back as well. Again, take control while you can. Maintain control for as long as you can, but don't get greedy. Once the pressure comes in, back off. If it's free, why not take it? As long as you have a way to get back, and they both did. Rory was up here, easy way for him to get back to his teammates. Iroh down here, taking control. I mean, it's like, you know what, if no one's going to take it, I might as well do it. It's one of those things, right? If it's free, we might as well take it, as long as we have a way to escape in case something happens, and they both do. So they now know, one team is here, one team is here. A Freak of Freaks and Sun Sister, they're playing on the eastern side, and they're gonna get kind of crammed into against one another. This is all because a Freak of Freaks don't want to push over this way. Had a Freak of Freaks pushed in or pushed up, it would have made it so much easier for Sun Sister to do anything. But because they decide to stay, and because Sun Sister never really do anything to aggress up the hill, despite never really being confronted, it pushes them in a strange situation where Rumblers now have a chance to go over in third party. And TSM are hearing all the shots pop off, they're hearing everything, and they're just waiting for a chance to potentially get a third party opportunity. But it kind of clears out on its own. Detonator rotating around the fields, they're coming over as well. Yet another southern shift. TSM is going to be happy with that. And, well, Liquid trying to push in towards Divine. I think they lose 2 players trying to do it. Again, the idea is good. They rotate together. But I would think that they see them come in here. Maybe they don't. I'm not sure exactly. You see them, they're rotating at pretty much exactly the same time to get to the compound. And Liquid is one of those teams, they'll confront you. Like, Liquid will take a fight to you. But we gotta keep in mind, I mean, this is not any given small tournament. These teams they're going up against, they're pretty damn good, and Divine is one of them. So they managed to take out 2 of the players. And now we'll see. Now we'll see how it all continues. Liquid forced to get off to the side. Samty, I think, no, he doesn't get back up because it's circle 4, so he can't get rest. EB's in the blue. He's gonna go down to the blue as well, I believe. No, he makes it in. No, he does go down. So they get 14th. Unfortunate start. Circle goes over towards TSM and Lazarus again. And now the moves are starting to come in. You can see the 2 remaining players, Silson and Herald. Again, they could have been 4, but unfortunately for them wasn't quite the case. They hold off well against Divine, but they know there's more people coming. Crow Crowd, AHQ finding their way through Pachinki. I mean, that's just a city fight. We can't really go too much in depth with that. But city fights are city fights. Freak of Freaks help clear out the top. And that's, I mean, this is, for TSM, as much as you want the kill points, it's perfect that Freak of Freaks kind of deal with them for them, because they don't want to get pressured. Once you have a compound in the center of a circle, if one team fucks you up, like if one team is allowed to push you, other teams will most likely stack up on that. Like, oh, that's a third party. Oh, that's a fourth party. And you say, no, I wouldn't agree. There are only 3 players alive. They are 2 guys rotating on a bike. And Levis needs to hold. while these two guys are driving on a vehicle, you need one person to shoot. Keep in mind, it's not a car. The guy in the passenger seat can't just shoot out the window unless if they have SMGs, but I don't think any of them did. So in this situation, normally I would agree that you should push up together, but in this situation, it's close. It's only, 150 meters maybe from here to here. It's close enough that Levis can land the shots, and until they get off the bike, if they all rotate in vehicles, there's no one shooting. Like, they will have zero pressure on Harold and Stilson until they get off the vehicle. So while they're driving, he needs to shoot. Like, he needs to shoot while they drive in, so that once they get off, he can start driving. Does that make sense? I think it's a perfect play, and it works out too, because you see Levy he headshots Stilson. It's just, I mean, they just spray them down. There's only so much you can do from a distance. But I think it was the right play, because it's close enough that if Levis got a knock on towards Stilson, and they either take out both of them or not, Levis could have made the play as well, or they could have taken the bike back down, pick him up, and then go up here. Because they have cleared this side, there's no one there, and they knew that Ensis had been fighting with 4am on the eastern side. So you need to hold. You cannot rotate 3 up like that together. What replay? You can do !program, and you can get all the info there. So let's see. Obviously a horrible circle, because even though we say, oh, but there's so much forest here, I think from here I'm gonna draw a line that's not completely exact, but something like it. From here, it's all downhill this way. Like, it's all downhill this way in terms of the terrain. So, if that makes sense from the way that I've been drawing it. So, if you're up here, and you want to push this way, as soon as you go over the edge, as soon as you are like into this terrain, everybody here can see you. Which means that this entire area becomes practically unplayable until all these people are out, and until you know that these teams aren't looking at you. So no one can go in and play anything here, kind of. It's not exactly drawn, but you know what I mean. Which means that all these teams are forced to stay out on the side. You can kind of see like a half moon circle here where the teams are, because there's nothing to play in the middle area. Lazarus gets the circle once more. Afrika Freaks on the top. They've cleared the bottom side, and they know the only team down there they need to deal with is TSM, so now they start looking the other way. Clear and move, clear and move, clear and move. It's like you're zigzagging your way into the circle. And again, this field, you can't go through it all. So all these teams that were on the western side, they're forced, like they're pressured to push over the top. TSM is looking this way, Lazarus is looking this way, making sure that no one can come in from that side. So all the teams are forced to go up over the top. Thoughts on whether TSM should have crashed Lazarus earlier? No, it takes too long, and there's so many teams that can third party. That's what I was saying. Once you engage your team in a center compound, it's an invitation for other teams. Because once you crash a building, I think had TSM full-on 4-man crashed into Lazarus on the knock with the M24, fatal, they would have sent it too. And then they could have gone, like, then TSM could have been fucked. Because you know, once there's a full-on crash in a building going on, you have at least like 10-15 seconds of chaos where you as a third team can, not easily, but you know that the players in the fight are so focused on each other that they will position themselves in ways where you can shoot them, because they're trying to we can make an example. Let's say TSM pushes in, while Gustav then runs around here to clear. He doesn't have time to be worried about Afrika Freaks maybe seeing him. Like, there's no way. He needs to focus on the guy that's right in front of him. So if this happened, that they all crashed in, all 4 people can't jump in the door at the same time, there would be a while where Afrika Freaks can sit and shoot at them. And that alone, I think, is too dangerous when they're still inside the circle. And they know, TSM knows that everyone's north of the half. Which is exactly why you see them split out. Look at the control they take. Some teams would just hug this compound. They would just turtle down and say, we're in the circle, please don't kill us. We're in the circle, please don't kill us. And then they would die. Because then whenever, TSM knows, whenever this fight up here is over, everyone will be looking down here. And if they are getting pinned in, like if they're getting contained in that compound, there's no way in hell they're winning. So they need to get out. Michael runs up, Roy comes with him, Iro goes as well, Gustav holds the angle, perfect play. Look at this. Gustav is the one holding. These guys, I mean, it's not really a bait, but they are relying on Gustav to make the play. And he is. He knows as soon as they run up, Lazarus is going to be looking this way. And they need Gustav to take them out. He peeks. Boom. Instant knock. Really, really, really smart play. And because they get the knock, they know now they have X amount of seconds where, of course, he's a smart in-game leader. He's Danish. I mean, and while this is happening, a Freak of Freaks knows they can now push over the top because these guys are busy elsewhere. They'll push over the top, clear the players, gives you plenty of space down in the middle, and this becomes a, I mean, I like this play from Iro to push out into the field to get more control. Like, he will hold the backside of the building because you can vault up from behind, and he's pushing out to make sure that they can't do that. Like, prevent all the off-angle positions, and TSM just swamp. I mean, look at the circle control. TSM just swamps them. Not a whole lot you can do. They don't get a lot of kills, TSM, but it's a really, really good late game. Like, really good play. And when it's a BO6, that's all that matters. Don't care about that first place overall. You just want to get top 8. And this is the, like, for them, this is the best way to get top 8. So the way API works is that if the game ends before, like, this circle closing here, this circle closing is only circle 8. It's not the final circle. So it won't show the final circle, obviously, because it hasn't popped yet when the game ends. So this is actually only circle 8. Circle 9 would have been like this size, maybe. This size, I don't know, somewhere. So it's not because it's the final circle, but it doesn't in the middle. The game never got to the final circle. For those who are confused. But that was game number 1. Again, any questions you guys may have, please do ask. There was questions earlier. What was it? I just saw the red text. How tall is Toby? Huh. I don't see the relevance, but I am in centimeters 1 meter and 96 centimeters. Where was Shroud? He was picking up coffee for his teammates. They're playing in this game. You should watch along. Oh wait, no, they aren't. I must be wrong. Sorry. Yeah, I'm 6'6" in I guess American measures or British measures. I don't even know who uses inches and feet other than UK. And do UK use inches and feet for height? They do, right? I don't remember now. In any case, that was game number 1. Now let's hop into game number 2. So, decent playing. Any changes from game 1? I'm gonna leave it up to you guys, now that you're here. Any changes, guys, from game 1? Let me know, chat. Did anyone drop a different place than what we saw them doing game 1? I can count 3 teams already. TSM, good call, good call. Got them down on the southern side. Everyone called TSM. Anyone else? A Freak of Freaks, good call, good call, good call. The third team, and that's interesting, is actually QM. Now, it's not that much of a change, but they just push further over this time than where they were before. But I think the only reason, they dropped to different compounds is because Luke isn't there this time. Last time they needed to jump in and contest the vehicles, but this time around Luke doesn't jump with them to take a car, so they can split out a little more. Like last time they were, I think it was like there, and there, and then with these over here. So this time around they split up a bit further. So it's not the massive change, but it's a small change nonetheless. So, Circle Pups, we're going out east. Also, Ibiza, they've changed that too, in case you guys didn't notice. EB is the one that jumps here. Last game, Semti. That's Gemti and Samti in one word, Semti. Gemti was the one that landed Watertown last game, and James and Ibiza landed down here together. This time around, they three-way split the top, and they keep James solo down at the bottom. So, Eastern Circle with a northeast to southwest plane, meaning that when it pops, there's quite a lot of open space. Quite a lot of open space. The only issue now is, how do you get there? Because normally when you have these off-center circles, which this one kind of is, if the plane had gone like this, you would have known south is free. If the plane had gone like this, you would have known that like the other side is free. The only thing is with this plane going down this way, at a diagonal, pretty much like the entry points to the circle is cut off on all sides. So even if you're a fast rotating team, unless if it's because you do this really early, you won't have like a direct shot at the eastern side. So unless if you're up here, the thing is 4 AM, they loot where they are. QM loot where they are. Lazarus loot where they are. Rumblers don't look to go anywhere else. So neither of these teams are really going to push in early. So that's just going to be all this left up and available. It's pretty interesting. Now let's see. Rumblers slowly moving down. TSM are doing exactly what we just said. You see that, guys? When I said unless if they do this. They did that. I knew that. Interesting split from TSM, but then again, as I said, you know for a fact that this entire area is easy, peasy, lemon squeezy to get to. So when they see the circle pop, Michael doesn't even hesitate. Like, swap to a bike, immediately go over to Milta, you know it's going to be free. Now, one thing happens in this game, and as we saw before, when I said last game, when is the last time you guys have seen TSM sit, I think it was like this far apart from each other, right? Watch something now. And I don't know if any of you guys are... I can see from the way that you guys are talking about Liquid all the time that there's a lot of Liquid fans, I would think, in the chat. So if you're a Liquid fan, tell me one thing. I'm just going to let this one play for a little while. Let me fast forward a bit, all right? When is the last time you guys have seen Liquid play this compound? I will leave you a little time to think about it. I'm just asking, when is the last time you've ever seen Liquid play here? Think about it. You can go back and watch some PEL bots or whatever. Just think, give it a thought. Give it a thought. I can give you the answer. When is the last time you've seen them sit in this building? We'll go back and do some analysis. I'll give you 2 minutes and then we'll talk about it. But in any case, we'll get back to it in a second. And that's just like one of those questions that I wanted to throw in there to see what you guys think. QM rotate early, and I really like this play. So they know for a fact as well. They know no one's down here. Let's just move. We don't need to sit and split up here for that much longer. Let's just go in and take something center. Smart move. Lazarus push down to take control. Zoidmate is by himself, but he's just going to chill and wait for the team. Let's slow it down a little so we don't miss anything. And 4M, easy peasy. Somewhat wide split, but not really. Very doable split. I really like this W-click split as well. Very smart to take control of all those places. And Genesis splitting on the western side. Crow Crowd slowly pushing in from the south. Not really anything too fancy. The only thing about this split from Crow Crowd is that normally you would see Crow Crowd actually make northern rotations on these circles. Like you would very often see Crow Crowd play these eastern circles like this instead. But now they're playing on the south. So, people have been coming with guesses, and I'm gonna tell you, I don't remember, I mean, and I could be wrong, but I don't remember ever seeing Liquid, first of all, with 4 people in one compound in Circle 2, that's probably happened before. But second of all, in this compound. And if you guys think back, because everyone is asking and everyone is wondering, oh, why is Liquid not succeeding? I've talked about playing out of your comfort zone. And remember when Liquid were in, like, they had that 1 week in PEL where everyone was like, oh my god, Liquid sucks. And I was like, guys, that's not at all the case. It's not because, like, they didn't get worse at PUBG from one day to the other. They just can't do what Liquid likes to do. And that's what Ibiza said. Both Ibiza and James, when they were interviewed, when like they finally got their win or something the next week, the interviewer asked them, was like, guys, you guys have been through a struggle. What has been going wrong? And I think EP was the first one to say, we can't get to the compounds we like, and teams are starting to take more control. This is exactly the same thing. Liquid in this circle would never ever sit here. Like, they would never sit here. Please, I mean, I want someone to come and say, Toby, that's not correct. They always sit there. If it's true. If I'm wrong in this, please correct me. But I do not recall ever seeing Liquid play this area of the map in these circles. They'll play on the northern side. They'll try and maneuver around down south. They would never sit in this position. Which means that coming to rotate from here, not only are you rotating from a spot you're not used to rotate from, but you're also rotating next to teams that you don't play against very often, which means you don't know their exact timings and all that, which makes things really, really tricky. EB tries to go up, get some control, takes the car, try back to his teammates. Genesis up on the hillside, they'll have some control. But look at how, I mean, Liquid is that team you always talk about, how they want to split out and they want to take control and they want to do these smart splits and take a lot of ground. They're sitting in one building. They're not playing the Liquid style of PUBG that gives them success. And that's what I talked about with Infantry Gaming yesterday as well. Oh, yeah, I talked about it yesterday. The games took place the day before. There are a lot of teams, and I think this is... The funny thing is that Liquid has usually always played Liquid PUBG at global events. But it's the same thing with Tempo Storm. Tempo Storm has had a period where whenever they come to, like, they will stomp NA or NPL, and then whenever they come to a global event, they will have a hard time. And everyone is going, why are they having a hard time? And I'm saying, because they are not playing the same PUBG that they did to qualify here. And it's the exact same thing for teams like Infantry Gaming. I want to say Navi to a certain extent, but not really. But Infantry Gaming in particular, when you go back and look at their games and their playstyle, like when have they pushed center? When have they stayed on the edge? How have they split in these circles in these situations? They don't do any of what they normally do. Like all the things they have done that they've had success with, they don't do any of it. Or they didn't, at least on day one at PGC. The only game they actually played kind of Infantry Gaming style PUBG was that Miramar game where they were completely fucked by Tempo Storm. It was a little interesting, but they were pushed to play different in that game because Tempo Storm landed with them in Impala. But that game actually was the most Infantry Gaming-ish game for them. And it was also their best game, the one where they got hot dropped. It's a little ironic, but yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's not always their own fault either. It's not always because it's like, oh, you're so bad, you don't play like you normally do. No, that's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that they have found a comfort zone in playing one style. And you can only play that one style because you go up against the teams that you go up against. Now, if you then force the teams up against a billion other teams, in this case Liquid is up against, there's only one other PL team here, right? Crow Crowd, TSM is there too, so they're playing against 13 other teams they don't play against on a regular basis. 13 of 16 teams are not their normal opponents, which means that even if they want to, they can't just go out and say, we want to do this, unless if they really play aggressive and force other teams to adapt to their style. They can't do that. If Liquid had shoved out teams from Pochinki, kicked out teams from Picado, then they could have done it, maybe. But they're not the ones with the gloves on right now. They're the ones getting pushed around, and you can see that's not how they like to play. I hope that makes sense. I don't think we need to go too much more in depth with how they play. 4am maintaining their split. Very greedy to keep it, but it's working. Good knocks from Forever and Wayless to be able to get them down. In this circle, I was like, oh my god, 4am, you better send Lou and Sicko down to Wayless and Forever. Like, this is not gonna work. You can't keep this split. It's not gonna. It's impossible. You can't hold this split in circle 4. The only reason this split works, and it's kind of funny, but the only reason they are allowed to maintain this split is because of the car crash we see over here. And I'm not sure why both these teams committed so hard to it. Seeing, I thought Genesis were further back, but seeing this right now, it starts, like, it's making more sense to me. But Liquid 4-man alongside Lazarus 4-man, full speed, pulled up on the exact same spot, and they were, like, it wasn't just that they came from each their side and, oh no, they saw each other. They were driving next to each other for a solid, like, 5-6 seconds, if not even more than that, before they crashed into the same spot. Full-on clusterfuck. Liquid gets completely eliminated. I think Lazarus loses 2 players, or 1, and neither of them really, I mean, yes, Lazarus got a lot of kills out of it. They had no idea Lazarus pulled up. I mean, they were driving literally on top of each other. Where else could Lazarus go in this? Is this even a good spot? Yes, you can scout a fuck ton. You can scout so much from here, especially in these circles. You can see from this spot, you can see... You can see that too. Oh, you can see this building as well. Or then it would go something along the lines of this. You can see all this. Everything that's within the white lines, you can see from this spot. So it's very useful. It's not somewhere you want to sit for the rest of the game, but it's very useful to figure out where you're going next. And, well, they both wanted it, and unfortunately, neither of them really get to play it. At least not the way they want to. Freaker Freaks, not in a hurry. They're going to play on foot. Move up towards prison. Or lumber, I guess you should say more. Detonator pushing in. They're forcing TSM out of their position. Circle send us up. And now, I mean, the fact that they were able to hold this for so long. Because I was looking at these cars coming in earlier. I was looking at these two going Lazarus back off to the side and go into shelter. Or Liquid go here, Lazarus go here. That's what I thought. Or maybe one of them continue to go through. Could they have known it was partially free? I think if you go in... No, there's a tree there. I don't think you can actually scout the entrance on this side. Like, see if there's cars over here. I'm not sure. I think you might actually, if you go out to the wall, you might be able to see over here if there are cars. But it's still a scary push to make. And I would go here, over here, a lot. But whenever this happens, then you might want to start turning. But then they started getting shot at by 4am and Genesis. So, I mean, they got pinned in. There was nowhere they could really go other than here. Ensis Force sees it. They take the spot. You can see Sword and Atletico. They've been sitting here pretty much the entire game. Like, they've been scouting from here for a long time. And they've only seen 2 players. So they make the move to go up and take away the spot on the northern side. And now, of course, both with the circle shifting, but also because... they have neighbors. They decide to leave. Smart play. 4am sitting in the center of the circle. Let's see. Divine pushing up. QM pushing up. This becomes a clusterfuck on the northern side. Not too much to analyze from it, really. I mean, not only are there 2 layers that you can be on, or 2 floors you can be on. But that was pretty interesting. Genesis got completely slaughtered by Force. Herald tries to push in, and this, I mean, this is where it kind of falls apart for W Click. I mean, they kind of already had when they lost their 2 players in the Wizard Tower earlier. In all fairness, Forever landed some absurd shots there, so I can't really blame them for going down. Like, he had a frame of 1 second, and he super slaughtered him. Hey Carson, am I streaming it? I'm gonna be doing the same thing we did yesterday, Carson, if that's what you're asking. Sun Sister playing the top side. Sun Sister had a good game here. I mean, the Japanese, they went full on up against TS. Look at this. This is a fair 4v4. And Sun Sister butchered them. A Japanese team, and this is not to throw shade at Japan, but they are, I mean, I think, at least in most people's eyes, are the lowest, like the worst region in PUBG. But with stuff like this happening, that's when you start rethinking whether that's true or not. 4 AM pushes up, aggressive push, but I like the idea. Them and Divine now up against one another. Divine has all the info, and I like the fact that they push up when they do. They push up, they see the nearest circle, and they have all the info. They just heard the knocks up here. They know that Forever has been down here for a while. Was they not gonna drive with the shift? Lazarus had more distance to the spot. They're Hey Chris, by the way, good luck today. James is there first, but I don't know. It's just, I mean, even from here, first of all, Lazarus see them. I think, okay, so one thing that I think was, we just talked about it, guys. We just talked about how Liquid never plays here. Like, Liquid never plays this compound, right? So, I don't think Lazarus thinks that it's Liquid. Does that make sense? I think, if I know Purdy and Lazarus right, they're saying, guys, we're pulling up on this and we're slaughtering these guys. I don't think they expect it to be Liquid when they see them coming out from this compound. Because, again, Liquid never plays that position. So, no matter how good an analyst or coach or whatever we are for that team, you're not going to be saying, oh, they'll be coming rotating from there, because it never happens. Like, no one would predict that. So, I think Lazarus expected to be an easier to fight team. So, even though Lazarus might not be in the best position when they come into the building, they still think we're the better team in this fight. We will win this. It's a scary play to make for both the teams, even for Liquid. But Liquid were in a position where the Liquid is on the south side of this push. We have two car caravans rotating in. So Liquid can't really turn left. They can't do that. These guys can jump off to the left as much as they want. But they think it's a different team. And Liquid can't really go here because up here you have Genesis and they're shooting down towards them. So they can't turn left. Oh, they can't turn right. They can't turn left because then they're crashing into Lazarus pretty much literally. And they can't just continue driving straight because then they go past the compound and you know there's going to be people in this compound. So they're forced to take this fight, Liquid, I think. Well, Liquid ends up being forced to take this fight. Lazarus could back out, but they don't. Because they want to take the fight, I think. Who is the Japanese teams? It's Rascal Jester. And they're in the other group, and it's Sun Sister, the ones up here, SST. So I agree with you that they were in the better position, Chris. But I don't think, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what Liquid could really, like, once they were driving full speed, they couldn't really do anything else than what they did. So you can't really blame them for it. It's just really unfortunate. But that's why it's BO6s, guys. Like, this is the reason we started adding more games. It was officially said that we were adding more games because to reduce RNG. Every team will find themselves sometimes in these situations. Every team will run into a situation where it's like, what the fuck? And the way we can avoid that becoming too bad is that we don't have 6-game group stages, but we have 12-game group stages, for example. So you can afford having like 1 or 2 more bad games than what you have. So Liquid just got really unlucky there. Not a whole lot more to it. Let's fast forward again. There wasn't really a whole lot more to go for in this game, other than the fact that Divine split this one really well. And then when it came to the actual shooting in the end, they were, I mean, it was a 3v2 in their favor. But the way that they push on this is smart, because Forever sits in here with a ghillie suit and clear vision, and they wrap underneath. They keep Nikki on the top to maintain control, and they send Turtle and Levis underneath. So whenever Forever peaks, he's being like withheld from Nikki. And now he starts pushing around as well. You can see he's constantly looking, he doesn't even care about taking damage. He just needs to make sure that his teammates can push forward. And they do, and they get the win. Really smart game by Divine, actually. Really smart game. I like to see that. But that was game number 2. Let's go into game number 3. Last game on Erangel. I'm glad you guys like it. It's these, I don't know why, but it feels like ever since we started doing PGC stuff, our videos are so much longer. But I guess because you guys are asking more questions, it's good, I like it. Maybe Liquid can claim their usual spots tonight. We will see. I mean, there's a lot of the teams that they would have to fight against. They're not going to be there. We'll look at that. We'll look at that after analysis is done. We'll do that after the analysis video. We'll look at that when we're done with this. So, last Erangel game. Decent plane. Any changes, guys? What do we see here? Any changes that you guys can see to what we've seen before? I'm gonna tell you, there's not really any changes. Nothing massive, at least. No real big changes. TSM is back in Milta, which throws off a Freak of Freaks a little bit. And I like this one because Lambo is like early shooting to get vision over TSM once he realizes they're there. Like you can see, they're all coming from down here, and Lambo is early shooting to go towards Milta Power, but he's like, never mind, let me just go Novo instead when he sees the circle pop. He just starts flying towards Novo. I think Lambo lands at like 3 minutes. Yeah, it's 3:08. Lambo lands on the ground. He's been parachuting for 3 minutes in this game. That is pretty entertaining. Like other teams are already rotating and driving, and Ragnar is taking boats and everything, already looted up, and he just landed on the ground. So they're gonna be very, very slow. A Freak of Freaks, even though they're on military island, they're gonna be slow in terms of actually getting looted and whatnot. So let's see. Let me slow it down a little bit. Ragnar steals the boat. Remember, guys, for those of you guys who don't know, there's a boat spawn here. There's a boat spawn here. Between the bridges, that's probably the dumbest color. Between these two bridges, those are the only 2 boat spawns. One there, one there. It's the only 2 boat spawns in this entire area. So Ragnar does it smart. He takes the boat, and then he goes underneath to pick up his teammates. Because this is a pressure point. Like, you don't want to be sitting around in a boat down here and say, Harold, come on, come over here. No, take the boat, get the hell out of there. You don't want to be sitting down there. People will come early, and they will start shooting at you. So really smart that they leave, that they get across early. Good idea for them to cross. Very smart play by W-Click. TSM, push over. Not really contested by any means. Crow Crowd, boats, Rumblers, boats, Aloe, boat. Sun Sisters go for boats in Lipovka, and then again, random things. There's no way to avoid these things happen. They run into each other. It's one of those situations where you can't do a whole lot about it. That's why we play more games normally, but BO6 is not more games. That's terrible. So Lazarus run into trouble. I mean, I think Lazarus went straight through, right? I'm pretty sure Lazarus qualified directly, so it's not a big issue for them, but it's still kind of unfortunate. OPC predictions for teams, loot spots, elimination stage. We could maybe do that. I think I should have done that probably yesterday then. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Circle pops. And this is a fun one because look at the Genesis split here. This is a wide split, by the way. Genesis came in somewhat early. They crossed over. Half boat, half car. Took control. And said Nerve and H went up. I really like this split early on because you can take a lot of control. And now that the circle pops, they leave. I believe Nerve and H push back down towards the compound where K-Mind and Profi is. Also, guys, and this is really fun. We talked about it yesterday as well. Watch this. Just keep an eye on Atletico right now. Atletico, they have parked their vehicles in Ferry Pier. Because keep in mind as well, there's no Ferry Pier team in this lobby. In this group of teams, there's no Ferry Pier team. So Atletico is smart. They say there's no Ferry Pier team. We can just go down and take a boat down here. And they do that. So Atletico go down. They go to take a boat. As soon as they jump into it, K-Mine shoots at them. And then they go, nope, we cannot go into that boat anyway. So he shoots. They all have to jump out of the boat and run back. It's just a perfect coincidence. So because they go out, they need to go back, right? Now they go back. Now they go, well, maybe we can take the other boat. So Flood goes all the way around the side, finds a boat for his team, goes all the way to cross, and watch this. Flood is by himself, and somehow this compound is open. And then this circle pops as soon as he gets over, and the team is like, well, that's free. That's pretty useful. And then they can just send it. That's pretty fortunate. That's a nice way to get a very good compound in this circle. Like, as soon as the circle pops, boing, thank you. They just come and hustle it away from everyone else. The second to last team to leave the main island gets the best position in the circle on the military. That is very rare that you see that. But nonetheless, let's see. Force haven't crossed. Liquid holds the bridge for at least a little while. Genesis pushes back down towards their teammates. And this is where Cluster commences. I remember when we were watching this yesterday that everyone was like, oh my god, Liquid, they're in a good position in this circle. And I was like, I don't know. This is a scary spot to sit in. Like, this is real scary to sit up here with so many teams in and around. Because you know this is going to be a cluster point. Teams that come from the west, like if we do that, let's draw the lineup that we normally do, right? You're not going to drive through there. This is all a no-go for rotating teams from west to east. So you can rotate from here up through here, and you can rotate from here technically down through here in this circle. So sitting here, like sitting in this position, let me draw it in a different color, in this circle, let me just remove everyone so it's easier to see. Sitting here, when coming into this circle, you only have one of two options to enter. You are sitting in a choke point. Like, you are sitting in a choke point. Which, yes, if you can control it, technically you can get a shit ton of kills, but there's a pretty big chance that there will be too many people shooting and too many things going on that is like gonna be difficult for you. Does that make sense? So even though the precision technically inside the circle is good, because teams from outside can only come in either here or here, it just makes things extremely difficult. So even though they're sitting well up here, you can see all these teams pushing over the top, it just becomes a cluster and they end up going down. Like cluster north, cluster south, opposite, north and south. Middle is somewhat quiet, and then they can push up whenever they have to. QM tries to leave. Rumblers manage to take them out. Fatal sitting on the southern side. And keep in mind, the top is open. Ever since Genesis left, no one has come to contest. Because this is, again, first of all, it's up a hill, so you can't scout it. Like, there's no way to scout this building if you're not already there. The only position you can kind of scout it from is this. And the team that is sitting here is the one that left this building, so they're not going to be, obviously, not going to be scouting that. So it's, I mean, it's, you can't scout uphill because obviously you can't see over when it plateaus on the top. So no one is going to go there for a very long time. It's not before the end where Freak of Freaks go, wait, guys, have you seen anyone be up here recently? No? Huh, okay, I guess we can start moving up the hill. And then they go take, and like, I think Style is probably as surprised as I was seeing no one was there. Why did they give up the spot? Pretty straightforward. With this circle, you know it's going to shift back to land, and you don't want to have to push downhill. You don't want to push downhill from here. So this circle pops, and they need kills too. Genesis needs kills. And they're in a good position to hold off people on the edge. You don't see Genesis contest center very often. I think Nerf prioritizes them fighting on the edge much more than crashing center. So it's just a playstyle. Like, it's a playstyle. Again, they have a chance to play to their own, or to cater to their own playstyle. And they do die, but they did manage to get quite a few kills, I believe. How many kills do they get? Scroll. Okay, so only 5 kills, but still, I mean, pretty decent game. Pretty decent game overall. If you can get 6 points per game in this format, you're gonna be through anyway. So that's a decent game for them. Like in a BO6, if you can get 6 points per game, then you're completely fine. Remember, it's not all about winning when it's group stages. You just have to rack up points. You just have to get points. Things kind of quiet down, and it's not too much. I mean, again, it's very in-game, in-depth, in-game terrain analysis in this point. But what I think is interesting in the end of this is the way this all comes to be. I wrote it on Twitter as well. This is probably the most fair 3v3 I've ever seen. Like, they could make a map. They could make a deathmatch map. You know, like in Counter-Strike, when you have Pool Day and you have Ice World and you have all those small maps where you can fight each other? They should make a map out of this square, right? Like this area right here. The terrain was very even for the teams. They both had like small rocks here and there. This was like the AVP map for for PUBG. It was just a very, very fair fight. And the way that they win it, I believe it's SR pushes up through. You can't really see it here, but there's like a billion smokes in the middle. A lot of smokes in the middle. And whenever Atletico starts pushing forward, I think it's Jukes who was the first one to go. Then you see, I think, is it Yan Li? Okay, so Yan Li sneaks through the smoke. Very smart play to get up and get a double. We can actually, could we find it? We probably could. But they just wipe them. Like within seconds. They just take them all out. So what was a fair 3v3, AHQ just slaughters them. Very good game for them as well. So that was game number 3. We're gonna speed it up just a little bit because I don't want these videos to be so long that people end up getting extremely bored. Let's see. Game number 4. Sanhok. Yippee! First and only Sanhok of this group. Anything to talk about? Liquid. Not inside bootcamp. Again, not playing to their own styles. But then again, it's Sanhok. That's probably the biggest takeaway in this. It's Sanhok, so we can skip Sanhok. Yeah. Let's just, we'll go through it quickly. Northern Circle. The first thing I was looking at when I saw this circle was, how is Liquid gonna play this? Like, how are they planning on maneuvering in this circle? And then one thing that I saw that I was really proud of, that I thought was really good, was this TSM push. This TSM push essentially gave them the win. I mean, also because the circles kept going up in that area. Painan was open, that's true. That's also something we talked about. This was interesting because they know for a fact that Detonator is over here. They saw them when they jumped in. Wicked spends... Did you ever have that when you play PUBG where you're like, you've been sneaking for like 10 minutes up on this guy. You know he's in the building, and you've been putting so much you've been putting so much effort into making sure he never hears you. Like, he never hears you. So you go sneaky peeky, sneaky peeky, sneaky peeky. And then whenever he's just about to start shooting, your teammates come with the car, and you go like, what the fuck, guys? Come on, I've been sneaking for so long, and now you ruined our element of surprise. Watch this. Wicked has been spending so much time swimming over. And then they come with a boat, and the entire of TSM comes down here, and they could die. It's just like, guys, why? Why? So unfortunate that had they all swum across, or because Wicked hears them. Wicked knows they're there, and he goes full on Navy SEAL mode. But here comes the rest of Detonator in their boats, and they get killed before they get anywhere. That's just really unfortunate. Of course, TSM being in the kill feed and Liquid knowing that TSM lands here means, guys, we can rotate now. Let's go. So they start going. They maneuver their way across, get into the compound, and this was a situation where this is something that you rarely ever, pretty much never see Liquid mess up. And I would like to talk to one of them about it, to hear what their comms were in this situation. But watch what happens. Again, this is a situation that you very, very rarely see Liquid mess up. And I don't know if Gemty gets spotted, and that's why he starts shooting. But he has a pretty clear shot, I guess, on Gustav. But James and Samty are not there yet. Even though he has a clear shot, his teammates aren't there yet. And I mean, this, again, these guys are a billion times better at the game than I am. So there's probably a good reason to it. You just, I mean, this is, to me, it looks like, to me, a situation where the communication is not on point. Communication is probably the thing that Liquid is most known for being good at. Their reaction time, being able to push really fast, all these things. And their element, like, had they been all four together when they started shooting, it would have been a whole different scenario, I think. It's just one of those small things. It's a small thing, but it's something that I've thought about when I saw it, and I was like, why did he start shooting before the rest of the team was there to help? It's just, it's things that I never see Liquid mess up. Also, watch this. Kendetsu, casual 700 meters in a boat kill. Boop. He shoots the guy way out here. That's pretty good. It's not 700 meters, but it's pretty far. It's just one of those things where I went like, something must be going on. I mean, they got 1 point, I think, right? 1 or 2 points on all of Erangel. So of course they've got to be frustrated. It's just one of those things that you never see Liquid make mistakes at. Rumblers running down the shoreline, they hear them confront each other, and they want to have a chance to third party. James goes down. I think Rumblers kind of shot themselves in the foot by starting to shoot. Look at this. I mean, there's no way in hell Rumblers are going to be inside. I mean, technically, yes, they could be. But there's no way the game ends over here. We can all agree on that. So the fact that they start shooting, they don't get a kill, and then they need to cross. Now Liquid can kind of, sort of, change their focus to Rumblers, and it ends up becoming pretty damn horrible for them when they do finally like make it over. The reason I'm not really focused on the east side right now is because everything is utter cluster chaos fights. Like everything that happens in this area is pretty limited to chaos. Ridgeline now, for TSM, their way to win this game is to get control of the hilltop. Like that's what they have to play for. Get control of this entire area, because once you know that you have this to yourself, you can just sit up here and you can pick everyone apart. And there's no way that any of these players have time to look at you because there's so many players next to them that they have to focus on. So if you can clear this, you essentially win the game if the circles come to you, which they do. And that's why you see them constantly looking in this direction. Instead of focusing up here, just looking down here to make sure that that no one can push over that direction. Now Crow Crouch starts shooting up at them, so they need to be careful. TSM once again inside, but they like TSM never just chill and wait for the circle to come. They go out and they take control. Rory pushes up. Genesis trying to push in. Samty gets Samty gets 2 knocks, and then Iroh comes with a nade and steals all the kills. That was kind of unfortunate. So Samty and Samty and Iroh playing together and taking out the opponents, and then Crowcrowd cornered in. Can't really go anywhere because they had to Crowcrowd needed to deal with the last Lazarus players while this happened, which is bad timing. Had they killed them faster, they could have tried to push out, but it doesn't happen fast enough. So TSM manages to get over and then hold them off. Good game for TSM. I think they got 15 kills, 14 kills, no 15. Very good game for TSM. But that was Sanhok. That's, I mean, yeah. It's limited how much analysis we really want to do on Sanhok. Also because the map itself won't have, I mean, it will have impact obviously, but it's not, I don't know. I think Sanhok in terms of analysis is more of an in-game, like in-depth macro fighting analysis map where we can't really do that from a map stream. Like in order to properly analyze a fight, you need to get like the POV, the point of view from all the players to see who looked where, who did this, who did that. Miramar though, let's push over to Miramar. Game number 5. So, any changes? Let's bring up the good old map again that we saw before we start. Whing! This is what we had. Again, as we said in the beginning of the video, for those of you guys watching on YouTube, or Twitch for that sake. This is where teams dropped coming into PGC. This is before scrims. This is where they dropped in their own regions. Now, the only change here is that Atletico actually used to drop Picado as well, but I knew already that they were going to go San Martin, so that's, I mean, not really a big surprise. They also did that at GL Grand Slam. So Liquid, Genesis, and Sun Sister are in Picado. We have Minas taken by HQ, and then up here we have TSM, 4AM, and Lazarus sharing Hacienda. Other than that, teams are pretty well spread out. So let's see what it looks like in the actual game. Lazarus, there's kind of sharing Hacienda with 4AM. You can see they're sitting here. 4AM is sitting there. Atletico, as we said, gonna go San Martin. TSM are the ones to back out. So this is the first time TSM has to go somewhere else. Well, I mean, it's not really Hacienda they share. Technically, no one's there. I think Lou ends up going there. But this is the first time we really see TSM have to go somewhere else. The games on Erangel where they looted elsewhere, it wasn't because they couldn't have gone to Milta. It's just because the plane, I mean, there was no reason for them to go there. So this is the first time they're forced away from their usual loot spot. Liquid, they're in the corner of the map in a split that I don't think I've seen anyone ever do before. And again, pushed out of their play zone. Liquid is a center team. Liquid rotates out of Picado, and all of a sudden they've become an edge team. This is not only changing up a little bit. I thought Liquid were gonna go down here and contest. Like, I was sure Liquid were gonna go here. Because then you're close enough to Picado that the rotations are kind of the same. No, it's not empty. W click is pushing down to Los Leones. But to me this is, I mean, Divine is here. They normally loot Impala. But now QM is an Impala. And just the fact that Liquid play this like so different than what they normally do is very surprising to me. They could have contested Power Grid and maybe forced TSM to loot elsewhere. They could have tried to take this down here in scrims, I mean. So I'm very curious to figure out why it is that they decide to go up here instead. I don't know what the idea is, but I'm very curious to find out. So in any case, Circle goes east. Circle goes out east. And what do we have? Let's see. Lazarus pushing in, and this is a pretty straightforward rotation for Liquid, to be fair. Over the top, down. There's not a whole lot to it. It's very, very, very simple rotation. Also, I think had Liquid been in, because keep in mind, they're coming into this game with, I think, 4 points. I think they had 4 or 5 points coming into this game. So they needed a shit ton of points. So had they been in first place, I think they would have contested much more. But because they're so far behind, I think is also one of the main reasons that they jump away. Jump away. If anyone knows that reference. Yeah, I know Na'Vi, they loot, but Na'Vi always loots there. So it's normal for Na'Vi to rotate from there, to play from there. For Liquid, it's not. For Liquid, it's very new. HQ, splitting the east side of Minas. Rotations from Rumblers coming from the south. Pretty straightforward rotation. I mean, they're looting Chuma. You don't want to go through Los Leones. There's nothing to it. I mean, it's pretty usual rotation. Detonator coming from the south as well. Freaks are gonna go position themselves up closer to the center. And you can see already now, if we zoom out, everyone's in the middle. Everyone's playing center in the circle, of course, other than the teams that haven't made their way there yet. But there's no reason to sit far south, no reason to sit on this, like, on the western side. Just make your way in. Yes, 3.5 hours. 3.5 hours. New circle pups. And we're going north. This was an interesting shift. Like, this was a very interesting shift because all of a sudden, we talked about how we had that bunch of teams in the middle, right? The only teams, like the only place where we see a, I guess you can say a, what do you call it? Chunks, not a chunk, a pile of teams is on the northern side. So whenever this circle goes north, not only is it a good circle for teams like Liquid and Helvetico and 4AM, but for teams that are on the southern side now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams. We can even count 8 and 9 with TSM. TSM is a pretty straightforward rotation towards Minas. But for the teams on the southern side, you need to play this one really smart. Issue is that from here, you can kind of see it on the map, but from here, alright, I'm gonna see if I can draw this up for you. And this is something that people don't really think too much about, but this entire area, what color should we draw this in? I'm so good at drawing, by the way. This is all uphill in that direction. Does that make sense? Like, this is all going uphill. This is the low point. This is the high point. Does that? I need to find a better way of drawing this up. But the thing with this is, it's a lot. Yeah, it's not, Fred. It's not. The thing with this is that for all the teams that are currently on the southern side, there's a point to it, guys. Don't worry. All these teams that are down here, they need to get up here somehow, right? They need to get up here somehow to the center. The thing is, if with this being uphill, you can't scout forward. You can't scout from anywhere. Like, if you want to see anything that is up here, you need to be across this point. You cannot sit down here and scout here. You cannot sit here and scout here. This is a block off. When you're down here, you can scout down on this side. When you're up here, you can scout up in this side. Does that make sense? So this is a big hill, which means that if you're on if you're on the southern side, you can't scout anything on the other side of the hill. So for all these teams south, they need to rotate fast, but they also need to, well, I mean, you don't want to go in and suicide, right? So these teams that are moving instantly, they want to go fast because they want to move up before opponents can do anything. And you see a lot of teams, make the 3 teams, I think, decide to rotate around this way because they don't want to have to push up through that. And that's why we see so many cluster fights. Like, we will always, every time we see a northern shift in these eastern circles, in this area, in and around this thing that we drew up just before, there will always be fights. You will always see fights here because teams can't see what's ahead of them. So they will run into opponents. And that's exactly why we see this big cluster with 4 teams here. And that's why, guys, for you guys as viewers, to understand, it's not really to understand, but it's to help you better, I guess, enjoy PUBG. Because whenever I see these circles, like whenever I see a circle, because they always play center in this first circle. So whenever I see this circle, 2 pup, my eyes automatically go here. My eyes always go here because I know there's going to be a fight here. I know there's going to be fights with teams here. Some teams, like Freak of Freaks, they're smart. They don't want to fight. They go around the side. Other teams, they'll go up this way. Smart rotations. But there will always be fights in this area when we have northern shifts in the eastern circles. You can quote me on it. I want to see a game where there are no confrontations with a northern shift on those. Liquid could have abuses? No, there's no reason. Okay, so in this circle, there's no reason for Liquid to try and push down and engage. They could, in all fairness, I mean, you can see Liquid are only coming in now. James is, where is James? James is behind the PUBG logo. You can't even see him. He's up here. Liquid is in a situation where they are far behind in points, and they don't want to lose players. Like, they don't want to lose players. So Liquid is not going to fight before James is with them. They will wait for James. Which is why they, instead of, I mean, they probably would have, what you would have seen, had they all 4 been here, maybe they would have pushed down here. Like, Liquid could have played this position in this circle. But because they're not all there, they can't play together. Therefore, the rest of the team needs to just wait for James to come. They could have been down here, actually. I think that would have been a good position for them. James on tour in Oasis. You can see now he's coming down, and now they can start playing together. Now they can start splitting out again and taking more control, because now they're all 4 together, right? But they probably could have been here, to be honest. They probably could have played that position pretty well. Now let's see. New circle pops. Plenty of room down south. Plenty of room down here. I don't know why I'm saying this. Oh, wait, never mind. Circle went down there. And now we have the same situation again, only it's opposite. All of a sudden, I feel so bad. I mean, Crow Crowd, and look at this. Look at how many teams were down here. Now there's 2. They were all right there. And all of a sudden, the only team that stayed was Divine. The only team to stay on the southern side was Divine. Which is kind of funny. It's kind of funny how they were literally the only team that stayed. Okay, so what we have now is kind of the half of the circle. We have 1 team here, and we have 15 teams here. Not only is that absolutely horrible, but it's also a situation where on the southern side, it's very flat, and there's not that many space, like that, not that many spots you can play. You can play this compound. You can play this compound. You can play these compounds that are already taken, right? On the northern side, there's a lot of hills. There's a lot of dents. There's like, it's very difficult to drive on the, like, up here. So even if you're there and you know, like, even if you know that there's so much room down here, because most teams will expect that. Normally when you see a shift go up and it comes back again, there will be room. But the teams that are in the middle, they can't get away. They cannot drive out. Atletico, there's no way they can do this. They need to just chill and play it slow. So for everybody, like, the only teams that can wrap around, really, are the teams that are kind of free of this area. Which means Liquid can try and get around, Afrika Freaks can try and get around, Detonator can try and push in. All these teams can kind of use the highway that goes through here. But all these teams, they have to stay. Because they can't really drive. In all fairness, I mean, for Divine, they got shifted away from so many times previously in this. Like, in these games. So I think it's kind of, it's okay. You know what? Divine, they deserve some circles. First, they don't go to 2 events they qualify for, and now they get lucky again. This was insane. Look at this. Look at this positioning from Detonator. This was 600 IQ by Detonator, and the Afrika Freaks fucked it up for them. Look at this split. Why do you think Detonator is positioned the way that they are? You can't drive through here. You don't want to drive through the city. You can't drive anywhere up here, as we talked about, because there's so horrible to drive through. The only place you can get into this circle is here. We talked about the highway. This is the only spot you can get in. And a team who is behind, who needs kill points, what better to do? Look at their positioning. They're sitting perfectly to gatekeep. It's a perfect gatekeep setup from Detonator, and it works. It works really well. Wicked hiding on the rocks allows for them to, like, they're just like, come into my trap, guys, come into my trap. Immediately gets a double knock, but then these guys come in. Afrika Freaks ruin it for Detonator. This would have been 4 kills for Detonator, I'm pretty sure. this would have been 4 kills for Detonator. But a freak of freaks come in and ruin the show for the other team from Korea and kill 2 of their players. It's like, no. if you're Detonator, you're sitting like meh. 3 kills for us, and then all of a sudden you just get boop shot in the back of the head. That's so unfortunate. And not only that, but now the next circle shifted away too. Had they got 4 kills quickly, let's say that the freak of freaks weren't here, but you get 4 kills quickly, they could have pushed underneath and they could have played like a new spot in the circle. This game was so, like, this game got, for Detonator, got completely fucked by the fact that the freak of freaks were up here. Which is kind of funny. So they need to drive. Liquid needs to leave. And again, same situation. Can't go through here. You can only drive through here, but where do you go? Like, this is a huge open field. Everyone can see you. You'll get shot at by all these teams. You're not gonna drive through here. You have to stop and take a fight on the edge. Also, the fact that Divine is keeping a 2-2 split at this point is pretty fucking insane to me. I was surprised that the Genesis never registered this split. I think Nerf is the type of in-game leader that if he knew that there was only 2 people here, they would have crashed it. But they are, of course, they have lost Profi early game. So, or earlier at least. So, they probably didn't want to force the fight. At least not yet. Son Yang is playing solo. Son Yang is alone. When was he alone from? There. Son Yang is a solo player when there's 48 people alive. Keep that in mind. Just throwing it out there. Solo player, 48 players alive. The Freak of Freaks try and crash in. Wicked and Liquid forced to take a fight for the compound on the edge. Sun Sister and Athletico forced to take the fight on the northern side. QM pushed down. Again, you can't drive through here, so they need to take the fight. New circle goes north. And now the timing for Genesis. Because now they crash. Had they crashed earlier, they were only 2. But now they crash when they're 4. And they end up going down because of it. Had they crashed earlier, they could maybe have gotten the compound. But now they crash into a 4-man instead of a 2-man. So they were way too late. Rumblers holding tight. New circles shifts. And here I thought that 4 AM were too quick on their rotation. But then I realized if they don't go down and take this, Crow Crowd will. This is a very, very dangerous position to play. And they had like 9 billion smokes to try and stay alive. And they do manage to stay alive for quite a while. But I was like, oh my god, guys, why are you sitting here? You're gonna die. But actually, it works out really well for them. Son Yang, chilling. He's not in a hurry. Now there's only 12 people alive. And he gets the circle. So from having 48 players alive, 48 players alive, and being a solo, he's now the only one in the circle in the top 4. I don't think he's gonna complain about that at all. That is a pretty decent sneaky snake. And he's been running the entire time. Running in open fields. Just chilling. Just chilling. The only issue here is, and it's really unfortunate, because if one of these two teams had 3 players alive instead of 4, so it would be 8 total, because they're both 4 guys alive. So when they see 9 in total in the players alive, they go, okay, so it's got to be 2 teams. Had one of the players from each of these teams been dead, so it would say 8, I think these would have thought it's a 4v4. And then they maybe wouldn't even have considered this position to be a player there. But but because it's 9, they know 100% that it's 2 teams. And Son Yang, even though he tries, he stays alive for a long time, but he does end up going down. Divine wins themselves their 2nd game of the day. Divine. I'm a fan. I like Divine. I think it's nice for them to... It's one of those teams where I've always known that they were really good, but I've only seen them play against other SEA teams. And I think SEA is a really good region for the top teams, but it's like with NPL, I think, that the best teams in NPL are really good on a global stage too. but the level of teams really quickly drops. Does that make sense? So for Divine, I knew they were good, but I just never seen them play against global teams, and now they can actually go out and... Yes, they do get circles. Of course they get circles in this game. But they also won the game from Shelter, where they had to fight like 6 teams in the north, and they didn't get circles. So it's not that they need the circles in order to win games, which is impressive. And they also... How much damage did they have this game? Rumblers were tagging everything. Divine had 1100 damage in that game. That's pretty decent. So, final game of the day. Let's head on over to game number 6. And also, guys, by the way, this is the second time, and it's a small thing, but this is the... Hi, Milk, what are you doing in the middle of the map? This is the second time... Oh, he was just chilling in the middle of the map. This is the second time that when we do these analysis streams that we hit over 100 viewers. I just wanted to say thank you. Like, honestly... Thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching along. I've spent a very long time doing these analysis videos. I think I've done them for over 1.5 years. And for a very long time, nobody really saw them. And that's fine. I mean, you gotta start somewhere. But now we've reached a point where the numbers are starting to increase, and that also means that more and more people are starting to be interested in competitive PUBG. So I think that is very amazing. And thank you to all of you for watching along. I think it's very nice of you that you want to watch. But let's see. Final game of the day. Any changes? Detonator. Whoops. Detonator. They go north. Okay. That's a little different. But then again, they couldn't really get to where they were last game. So that makes sense. Anything else out of the ordinary? What is... Did Milk forget to jump out of the plane? HQ are going Minas. Milk is up here. I mean, he can't be at the toilet because they're playing at PGC on a stage. Normally when it's online tournaments, it's probably like, yeah, he was probably peeing or something like that. But I don't think that's the case when he's in a stadium. DC'd? Did he DC? No, there's 64 in this. Maybe connected again late. That would suck. At a stage event that they don't remake it then. But in any case, I mean, of course, it doesn't really matter too much. He does get back to his teammates. Runs all the way down, gets over to his teammates. Circle pops, and it's a very similar one to last game. A little further north, though. Further north, but similar to last game. Yeah, he's back. He's back. So it's fine. It's just interesting that that happened. And now, I mean, last game, Liquid were slow on the rotation because Teams was late. This time around, they would essentially do the same rotation, but they have Detonator up there too. We'll see. We'll see, Carsten. We'll talk about all that after. This makes sense. I don't mind this splitting from Liquid. I don't think they were expecting Detonator to be up here, but I don't mind this split from them at all. It makes pretty good sense to be like when they're in this area. Circle pups. No one is in this part of the map. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, everything here you can't play. I mean, technically you can play the water, but who's gonna play the water? So let's just mark that as well. You can't go up on this mountain. Believe me, I've tried. You cannot fly there with a parachute either. You just get knocked. Teams goes up to the top to loot. They will rotate over. Detonator already moving in from the top. Everyone is coming in from the south. And that's the thing, right? Because we talked about these mountains. You can't really scout forward here. You can't really scout up the hill here. You can't really scout up the hill down here or here because of the mountains being the way that they are. So teams need to get up into this area early if they want to go. The thing is also then, if the teams do go here, it becomes very difficult to leave again. So that's why, that is one of the reasons that we don't see so many teams crash center, like full on committed in Circle 1. But in Circle 2, that's when you see teams starting to commit more to center positions. Because the first circle can always, like, next circle could go up here, and then when you were sitting down here, it's going to fuck up your chance to go center in the next circle. So even though it's a center teams might not go center before a couple of circles later. So from being the slowest guy on the team, James is now the first guy on the team. He's going to drive forward, try to get into a better position in the circle. A lot of teams on the southern side, no one in the Saha. And now the circle pops. Boink. Interesting shift. For 2 reasons. A, again, this is pretty much unplayable. So a big chunk of the circle you can't really use for anything. And also, it's somewhat of a shift to the edge. And now we talked about previously how when you have a circle that's here, and the next one goes south, then teams will try to do that wraparound thing that we talked about, right? Where you go all the way around to push in from the side that it has shifted to be on the quiet side of the circle. But you can't do that here. First of all, there's a ton of water. Second of all, you can't go, as I said, you cannot cross into this area. So the only way you can swoop in is on the west side. So half the possible rotations over to this side and coming in from the quiet side, that's not possible. It's not going to be possible for teams at all. So we'll see now. How do teams do this then? A lot of teams have to commit up on the northern side because they don't want to drive over these hills either. Again, difficult to drive in, really, really tricky to maneuver around. You can't maintain your speed in your vehicle, which also means that odds are you're most likely going to get killed if you try to drive through and there's a team nearby, which you don't know if there's going to be because you can't scout it. So very difficult to maneuver up these hills. And teams want to avoid this valley. That's another thing. Look at this circle. There's a valley that goes from here down to here. You can see it on the map too. This area in red is like a big speed bump for the teams. It's like a quarry, you know? So for teams that are now out here, why would they want to? Like, why would a team sitting out here want to go here if they have to go over here next anyway? You might as well just skip the first one and go straight to the second one. You know what I mean? You might as well just skip this stop. Like, why go here first and here second if you can just jump straight to second? Does that make sense? So you will see very few teams. I don't know if any team actually goes up on this side. Everyone will try to get around either on the north or the southern side. You see? No one comes down to play here. Because no one wants to be forced into that area. It's actually pretty interesting. It's a very, very big portion of the map. It's a very, very, very big chunk of the map that is practically not being used by anyone. Liquid forced to fight TSM. Crow Crowd comes into it, but they decide to wrap. Crow Crowd goes 4 people into one car. That becomes pretty scary. I saw that and I was like, oh. But they do manage to survive somehow anyway. They go 4 guys in one car. I think they used all the gas. That's probably the issue. I don't think they have gas in the other vehicles anymore. So they need to go 4 guys in one vehicle. They manage to drive around. Push up into the building. New circle pops. All the teams have managed to push through from the south. And we have excluded this valley area. So now it's just one big hilltop in the middle. That's kind of the focus point in this circle now. Only W-click and... No, you can't even say that a Freak of Freaks is center because they're not. So only W-click really have a center-ish position in this circle because this is a big downhill slant for Style and Lambo. And everyone else needs to push uphill. It's an uphill push. Like, this is the hilltop of, like, this is like the volcano. It's not a sun that I'm drawing. It's a volcano. My drawing skills are amazing. So this plateau up here is... I don't know how to draw it any different. You know what I mean? That's what it is anyway. So this is the high ground and all this is low ground. And you can't scout it until you get there. It's the black hole from Fortnite. We can call it that. We can call it that. So no one can really get up there, which means that this entire area becomes pretty much a W-click only position. One thing that's strange to me, this was very, very strange to me. Why do they go back down? on a corner position like this. I think the reason was that this position can see this position. So they can, like, W-Click can only play here. They know that QM has pulled up over here. They know that a Freaks are down here. They can't play the middle because that's just out in the open, right? I think the reason is, it could be for kills, but I think the reason actually is that you can see the kind of valley point they're in is open on this side. So if you're sitting down here, you can see them. Which means that they need to make sure that no one else is here in order to be able to sit here. Does that make sense? I think that's how they prioritize it. So they keep 2 guys for position, and they send 2 guys down to make sure that no one can see them. And they can also still apply a lot of pressure from up here. I would think that's the reason. A lot of fights, as we said, I mean, you can draw a line here and see so many teams on the northern side. You can just, like, we can make a donut and see everyone is pretty much out in the meat of the donut. You know what I mean? You see now, and this is the good idea with it, now they leave. Repo and Ragnar, now they drive up. When the new circle pops, they know no one is going to come play that position. Now they can play that spot. But then unfortunately, they rotate like 5 seconds too late because QM is coming up right as they come up here too. And they get the knocks on them just before Ripper and Ragnar get there. So I think for W-Click, one of the things they need to work on for today, I mean, they don't have so much time to work on it, but one of the things I hope they have talked about for today, someone asked earlier to do analysis of W-Click. I think one of the issues they had yesterday was timing on rotations. Sometimes it's their own fault, like we saw with them when they left apartments to push down towards the Pochinki area. Another thing is this. Had Rippo and Ragnar been there like 2 seconds earlier, they could have helped them. So it's just really bad luck that they get pulled up on like that. But that's something I think they need to try and figure out, how to put themselves in better positions to have more space to work with, I guess you can say. Because they were very locked down up here, even though they were in the circle. And they end up, I think they end up surviving with 2 for a while, but Reaper and Ragnar do end up going down. Did you see 4am guy running? Oh yeah, I know it happened. I did see that. He ran over Gemty, I think it was. It was pretty interesting. We've talked about Liquid all stream long. You can go back in the video. It's not that I don't want to explain it to you, but we've already talked about it many times. So either go in the VOD, or I will also upload all of this to YouTube. So if you have any questions, watch that, and then you can always reach out to me. Like, you guys are always welcome to write to me in Discord or in the chat when I'm streaming and all that, if you have any questions about PUBG. This was a situation as well where, so teams are always relying on teammates, obviously, to help out. For example, we saw that in the game that TSM won on Erangel, where Gustav was holding the angle over towards Lazarus in that small house so that his teammates could run up. And while they run up, they will do that in confidence because they know Gustav, he's the man, he will hit that shot when he has to. So he knocks the guy, and that allows for them to push here. The situation was the same. Noki and Timmy have been seen by Genesis, and the only way that they can make their way in, because Tixu and Misa actually played smart. They push around the side and they get a really good flank position, like really good flank on the side. But as Wolf says, I think Tixu's SKS broke, or he accidentally swapped it out for a water gun, because they whiffed a lot. And it's unfortunate because that could have been the play. Like, this could have been a really good play, but I think Tixu gets to shoot, I think, like 6 or 7 bullets and only hits 1 or 2 of them. Had they got a knock or 2 there, it could have been a whole different game. This could have been Crow Crowd position. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen. They all end up going, pretty much going down because of it. And yeah, they get eliminated. I think Nuki goes down. Yeah, he goes down. So they end up going out in 7th place with with 1 kill. It becomes a 2-point game for them. They got 2 points in that game. And it could have been a very, very different game for them had they been able to sit up here now after killing Genesis. So that's unfortunate. You have to be able to land your shots, of course. Circle goes center. Freaks try to push in. But the thing is, there's not really anything to take. That's the issue with the center. You can see everyone is kind of pushing in, going back out. Pushing in, going back out. You can't really, there's not really anything to really take in the middle of this circle. Repo tries to make his way in. He's going to go down. Ragnar is going to try maybe to do something about it, but not really going to be possible. Freaks pushing on over. Genesis pushes up, and they just need to swipe. I mean, this is what Genesis does well. This is what they've been doing really well in NPL as well. If they're 4 guys up late game, they can swoop, they can push together. Profi is a mean machine when it comes to up close fights. K-Mind is there as well. I mean, they're really good in close range fights, and they just wipe them. I mean, they push it really well together in the late game. And they end up winning themselves the game with 14 kills, I think. 15 kills. So a solid 25-point game for them to finish off. And they make it through directly, which I guess is good. I mean, I think it's good for Liquid that Genesis goes straight through, because then maybe they can contest spots. But that's going to be it, guys, on YouTube for this episode. Thank you so much, and I will see you all. If you want to watch tomorrow, it's going to be at 2. Oh, wait, it's going to be 8 o'clock CET in the evening on Twitch. Thanks for tuning in.